On June 22nd, 2026, Canada switches off a sound it has broadcast for more than 100 years. This is the sound. One beep, every second, sent across the country and out over the ocean since before anyone listening to it now was born. Listen closely, and one beep is missing. Every minute, on the 29th second, the station holds its tick. The silence is on purpose. It is how you find your place in the minute, in the dark, without a clock. The station is called CHU in Ottawa. In a matter of days, it goes quiet. For good. The people who used it were never asked. And it is not the first. Around the world, one country at a time, the radio stations that have told us the exact time for a century are going silent. Some were unplugged to save money. Some were replaced by satellites. One was switched off at the very moment its country ceased to exist. This is a record of the time signals that went silent. If you were here last time, you met 5 of them. WWV in Colorado, JJY in Japan, MSF in England, DCF-77 in Germany, HBG in Switzerland. The signals your radio clock has quietly listened to, maybe without you ever knowing. This is the other half of the story. Not the ones still broadcasting, the ones that stopped. Start with the one that is about to die. CHU sits outside Ottawa. Its roots go back to 1923, when Canada's Dominion Observatory began broadcasting the time it read off pendulum clocks and the movement of stars. It took the call sign CHU in 1938, transmitting at first with just 10 watts. For most of a century, it has sent the same thing into the air: a voice, a tone, and the exact second. The voice was bilingual, French and English, read for decades by national radio announcers whose cadence a generation of Canadians grew up setting their watches to. The tones are simpler, 1 beep per second, and that one missing tick on the 29th second was never a fault. It was a tool. A navigator or a radio operator could hear exactly where they were in the minute without looking at a single display. CHU broadcasts on 3 frequencies that look slightly wrong: 3.330, 7.850, and 14.670 MHz. They are deliberately off the round numbers that time stations usually use, the 5s and the 10s, because those were already taken by the powerful American stations to the south. Canada tucked its signal into the gaps between its louder neighbors, and hidden inside the beeps is a code. CHU sends a digital timestamp that an ordinary computer from the 1980s could read through a dial-up modem chip. To this day, you can set a computer's clock from CHU over the air with no internet at all. The signal even carries the planet's imperfection, a small number updated through the minute that says how far the Earth's rotation has drifted from atomic time. The wobble of the world, broadcast on shortwave. On June 22, 2026, it ends. The reason is not dramatic. The transmitters are from the 1960s and are wearing out, and the National Research Council, facing budget cuts, decided replacing them was not worth it. There is a clock on a website now, and a phone number, and the internet's own timekeeping. The radio, they decided, was redundant. The people who used it were not asked. There was no public consultation, no call for comment. The decision was simply made. One of them remembered tuning to CHU during a blackout just to hear it, to know that the outage was only his and not the whole world's. A signal you could trust precisely because it did not run on the grid or the network that had just failed. Even now, the people who still listen are fighting for it. A group of radio scientists has asked Canada to reconsider, calling the signal unique and irreplaceable, a tool they still use to study the upper atmosphere. As of this recording, Canada has not answered. Cross to Australia for a station that had to die twice. Radio VNG went on the air in 1964, broadcasting Australia's time from Lyndhurst in the state of Victoria. For 23 years it did its job quietly, until 1987, when the funding was cut and the station was closed. It did not stay closed. The people who needed it, the surveyors and astronomers and seismologists, the scientists whose work depends on knowing exactly when something happened, formed a consortium and brought it back. They moved the transmitters north to Shanes Park outside Sydney and kept the time on the air. The consortium's honorary secretary was an earthquake researcher named Marion Lieber, who personally signed the cards confirming the station had been heard. The keeper of Australia's official time was a person whose entire science is the measurement of exactly when the ground moved. The reprieve lasted 15 years. By 2002, GPS receivers had become cheap, and a satellite in orbit could give a more precise second than a shortwave station ever could. The official reason for the shutdown was almost gentle. Calibration by GPS, they said, would replace the signals broadcast by VNG. On the last day of 2002, the station the scientists had saved went silent for good. The transmitters were retired. Someone went looking for a place to keep them, and the antenna fields where Australia's time had stood for decades were sold and built over. If you go to Lyndhurst today, the only trace is in the street signs. People live in a housing estate built on the spot, on roads called Tower Hill Park and Tower Hill Boulevard. Named for a tower that is no longer there, that once broadcast a signal most of them never knew existed. The next one did not run out of money or lose to a satellite. It ended with a country. East Germany broadcast its time on 4.525 MHz under the sober name of its Measurements and Standards Service. The signal came from Nauen, a place with more radio history in it than almost anywhere on Earth. Nauen has been transmitting since 1906. It is the oldest radio transmitting station still in operation anywhere in the world. During the First World War, after the British cut Germany's undersea telegraph cables, Nauen became Germany's voice to the world, running at 800 kilowatts, by far the most powerful transmitter on the planet. Decades later, East Germany used the same site to beam its broadcasts across the globe. And tucked inside all of that power was the small, exact pulse of the East German official time. 100-millisecond ticks, with the day and the hour coded into them. On the 3rd of October 1990, East Germany ceased to exist. The country was absorbed into the Federal Republic, and its institutions were dissolved or folded into West German ones, including the body that kept its time. The standards service that ran the signal was closed. Its work passed to the West German Institute that already ran DCF-77, the signal you met last time. There is a story that the Eastern signal stopped at the exact moment the country did, cut off at midnight as the flags changed. It is a clean story. It is also not true. The records do not support it, and the people who keep them do not repeat it. The truth is quieter and somehow worse. For a while, the Eastern signal kept transmitting anyway. An official time with no state left behind it. Then, sometime in the years that followed, as DCF-77 reached across the old border and covered the same ground, the Eastern signal was switched off. No ceremony, no final tick that anyone wrote down. It simply stopped being needed, and then it stopped. East German clocks had already rolled over onto the Western signal, most of their owners never noticing. The Eastern clock was not moved, or modernized, or saved. It was let go, quietly, a few years after the country that built it had gone. What killed it was not a budget or a satellite. It was the disappearance of the state whose time it kept. So far, these have been radio stations. The fourth case is bigger. It is what happened when a country switched off its backup. LORAN was not a voice reading the time. It was a navigation and timing network. A grid of tall transmitters running atomic clocks, built so that ships and planes could find their position, and so that critical systems could stay synchronized without looking at the sky. For decades, it was the ground-based partner to GPS and its designated backup. If the satellites ever failed, LORAN was the net underneath. In 2006, a team was asked whether the United States should keep it. The team was chaired by Bradford Parkinson, the man more responsible than anyone alive for GPS itself. By his colleague's account, he expected the review to recommend shutting LORAN down. The evidence changed his mind. His team's finding was unanimous. Finish the modernized version and keep it as the national backup to GPS. The recommendation was overruled. In February 2010, the United States switched LORAN off, and then, to make it final, they began tearing the towers down. The largest of them, at Port Clarence, Alaska, had stood 1,350 feet. For half a century, it was the tallest structure in the state. In April 2010, it was brought down with explosives. The demolition company called it the largest man-made structure ever felled by explosives. The backup was not just unplugged, it was blown up. Europe followed. The Northwest European chain was funded in Britain to run until 2022, but when France and Norway announced they would switch their transmitters off at the end of 2015, the remaining stations could not hold the network together alone. Britain shut its service the same day, 7 years early, because its neighbors had quit. For 1 week after the American shutdown, the Coast Guard kept the old signals on standby, ready to switch them back on if something went wrong. Then they let them go. Here is the part that lands later. China finished building its own version of this network in 2024. South Korea built one to defend against jamming from the north. The exact ground-based backup the West spent 5 years dismantling, and in one case, dynamiting, its rivals are now racing to put up. The fifth case is 2 signals and a question. The first is OMA, the time signal of Czechoslovakia, on the air from 1958. It broadcast on 50 kHz, one of the lowest frequencies any time station has ever used. So low it sits at the very edge of what we normally call radio. It was run by the Czechoslovak Academy of Sciences, disciplined by an atomic clock outside Prague. And here is the strange thing. We no longer know what the letters OMA stood for. No surviving reference explains the name. A national service for keeping time has outlived the memory of its own name. By the account that survives, OMA was held back by the system it lived under. Its research was steered by the Communist Party, and the one thing that might have given the signal a future, a cheap chip that any clock could use to decode it, was never funded. So it stayed expensive and niche, and when Czechoslovakia changed, there was nothing worth keeping. Sometime around 1995, OMA went quiet, and its users drifted west to the German signal, the way East Germany's had. And then there is the one that did not die. In France, on 162 kHz, there was a long-wave station that everyone in the country could hear because it carried a national radio program. On the last day of 2016, the program ended. The audio went silent. To almost everyone, the station died. But it did not. Riding invisibly on that same carrier wave, inaudible on any ordinary radio, is a time code. And it is still transmitting today, off atomic clocks, reaching roughly 300,000 devices that quietly depend on it. Railway systems, the power grid, traffic lights, hospitals, parking meters. The part of the station you could hear is gone. The part you could never hear keeps perfect time. France is the one country that decided to keep its invisible clock running, after almost everyone else had pulled theirs down. Step back and look at what is being switched off. We do not think of GPS as a clock. We think of it as a map. The blue dot on the phone. But the satellites are clocks first. The timing they broadcast is what keeps power grids in step, what timestamps financial trades, what lets a cell network hand your call from one tower to the next. The exact second, delivered from orbit, is woven invisibly through nearly everything you touch. And that signal is fragile. It is faint by the time it reaches the ground, and it can be jammed or faked. This is not a theory. Over the Baltic, GPS is being disrupted so heavily that an airline stopped flying to one Estonian city because its planes could no longer reliably land. Over the Middle East, by one aviation count, around 1,500 flights a day were being fed false positions by late 2024, up from a few hundred a day just months before. Some aircraft were told they were hundreds of miles from where they actually were. The man who built GPS warned us 2 decades ago to keep the backup. We switched it off and pulled down the towers. And the signals that did the same job from the ground, the time stations, are being unplugged one by one, country by country, because the satellites made them redundant. The same satellites now being jammed daily. It is not all one direction. In 2018, the United States proposed shutting down its own time stations, WWV among them, the ones you met last time, to save a few $1 million. The shortwave and amateur radio community, the people who still listen, fought it and won. The stations stayed on. That is the exception. Usually, the old clock loses. Australia in 2002, the backup grid in 2010. Canada this June, with no one asked. For 100 years, we built a quiet, redundant web of signals whose only job was to tell anyone listening the exact, trustworthy time, no matter what else failed. We are taking it down faster than we are replacing it, on the assumption that the satellites will always be there. On June 22nd, in Ottawa, a transmitter that has spoken the time since before the satellites existed will go silent. There will be one last missing beep on the 29th second, and then there will be no beeps at all.